After being here for 10 days, these are the top 10 things I've learned about Taiwan, Taipei. Boom, point number one. I feel like this might be a very controversial one, but I feel like Taiwanese people, when they speak Mandarin, is a little bit more soft-spoken than mainlanders. For example, I remember when I was doing street interviews, I was asking people like, 想做一个采访吗? My friend, my Taiwanese friend, is like, no, you have to say 请问可我做一个采访, which is a little bit more of like a polite way. And I feel like Thai people are also very polite. And I don't know if it's a controversial one, but I feel like a little bit more polite than mainlanders in my opinion. Point number two, man, I feel like Taiwanese people, based on the people that I've talked to, my friends and a lot of people, I feel like they're pretty nonchalant about the Chinese 2027 maybe possible takeover. And I think that they've been hearing it for their whole lives and it doesn't really bother them anymore. And you can compare this to like the Thai sabai attitude, where people in Thailand are not really so stressed about anything. Point number three, I feel like Taiwan's tax incentive is pretty interesting in the sense that wherever product you buy, they're kind of like incentivizing their citizens to keep the receipt. And once you take the receipt, you give it to the government, there's a chance for the citizens to win the lottery. This kind of like encourages people to be in the system, to pay taxes, Unlike in Thailand, where over 50% of the Thai economy is an informal economy and over 50% don't pay taxes, this is a pretty smart thing that the government has done in Taiwan. So it kind of like forces everyone to pay taxes. Plus, in my opinion, the government housing and the infrastructure here in Taiwan is pretty good. Government run, obviously, and economics is not always the most efficient way or the most effective way, but in Taiwan, based on my opinion, and based on everything that I've used, like the gas stations, the government housing, it's pretty solid, man. Taiwan has a bunch of Japanese influence, mainly because it was colonized by the Japanese for around 40 years, from 1895 to 1945. So it really makes sense that, they kind of like inhabited this kind of like Japanese culture, like the fashion, the vibe. We were like at this like, pride place thing area, which is pretty cool, man. It's Ximending area, and I really like the vibe, man. It goes back to the point that Taiwanese people are extremely vibey, almost like a Thai person, and very chill and nonchalant, despite potential wars that could happen, despite the economic downturn, and all these various things that might be happening, despite the frequent weather patterns that is like raining all the time. People here are just pretty cool and pretty chill, in my opinion. Point number four, you guys, I feel like Taipei, or even like Taiwan in general, the buildings are not very, flashy at all, but it's very practical, right? I feel like it's not as beautiful, not as nice. I mean, check out this one right here. It's like definitely not as nice as the buildings like in China, or even like the buildings in America, or even in like Bangkok, There's just not a lot of flash to it, but it kind of makes sense because Taiwanese people are just not really like flashy people, right? Look at HTC, high technology company, very good product, very good phone, I loved it. But then the company kind of like went bankrupt and now shut down because it didn't know how to market itself. And I feel like that's the whole Taiwanese economy, in my opinion. A very good product, but just lacks like a marketability, I guess. And that's kind of like the reason. And also one of the reasons why I guess like the infrastructure is not so flashy is because the constant earthquakes, the frequent earthquakes, and also like, the potential war that could happen. So people are just kind of like prepared and like, no, I'll just build this infrastructure. It doesn't need to be nice, it doesn't need to look nice. It's just gotta be practical. And I think that's like the Taiwanese way. And point number five, guys, and this is a pretty interesting one, a pretty weird one, I think, but the couples here, they tend to be very like, their looks are pretty much matched and equal. Whereas in the US, the discrepancy a little bit higher. Usually, I guess the guy is a little bit more attractive than the girl, or maybe some cases vice versa. But here, I would argue it's more of like more matched and based. And it's an interesting observation to point out. Obviously beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it just kind of like maybe goes to show you that Taiwanese people, they value more on maybe charm, charisma, and maybe like success, education level more than looks. I don't know. What do you think, Brian?
Ooh, I think in Asia, like looks aren't as important. In Asia, money is more important. So like, like when you see that like fat dude that's with like a really hot Asian girl, like it's probably because that dude is fucking loaded.
You heard it here first from a Taiwanese guy, so It's just my observation, man. I mean, obviously nothing wrong with that, nothing bad with that at all. People gotta live their life. Nothing wrong with the US too. So the next point, I feel like Taiwanese people love Jensen Huang. You know, obviously Jensen Huang, the richest guy on the planet. Media, you know, supplies microchips to everything. You know, obviously AMD, you got Lisa Siu, which is Jensen Huang's cousin. And, you know, TSMC is coming from Taiwan and, you know, helps Jensen Huang, you know, supplies chips to NVIDIA and stuff like that. So I feel like, you know, Jensen Huang really put Taiwanese or Taiwan on the map kind of thing. And people really like him here. And next point, guys, I feel like Taiwanese people are just very vibey and like, I guess like they're very trendy with the fashion. Obviously they're not like New York or even like Bangkok level, but for a small island, it is pretty trendy. I feel like people are pretty friendly, pretty cool, pretty vibey. Taiwanese people, you know, are influenced with like American culture. You know, there's no firewall. There's dressed a little bit trendier in my opinion, or maybe not trendy. Maybe that's not the right word. Maybe just more Western, just more Westernized. Okay, and whether that's good or bad, you know, that's up to the individual, but that's just my observation. I feel like Taipei is just not overcrowded at all, and mainly that's because it's not really like a tourism-based kind of like city. For example, even in like Shanghai or Beijing, obviously China is super populated, over 1 billion people in the population, and Thailand, or Bangkok specifically, was like the number one most visited city in the entire world, so it makes sense. To end this video off, man, I know this video might seem like super pro-Taiwan or something like that, or like anti-China or whatever. Trust me, it is not that at all. I'm just kind of like speaking from experience and my observation, you know, after just talking to people from Taiwan and also staying in China for 2 weeks. Obviously, I have a lot of friends who are Chinese and they love them to death. I got Taiwanese friends here too. So this is just basically what I've observed, and what I've observed might not be correct. You know, I might be completely wrong. So let me know in the comments down below. Yeah, there'll be some more videos coming out, and I hope you guys enjoy this kind of like walk and talk style in Taiwan. So I don't know, maybe they can do it in other countries too. And till next time, 再见.